I am the lesson about true worth. The one my daughter's fiancé's family was about to learn the hard way on what should have been the happiest night of her life. The mop bucket wheels squeaked against the polished hallway floor as I pushed it toward the chemistry lab. 3:35 in the morning. The university was quiet except for the hum of the heating system and the occasional footsteps of a graduate student burning the midnight oil. I'd been doing this for 35 years now, cleaning these halls while students slept, while professors dreamed, while the world outside moved on without noticing men like me. My name is Robert Walsh. People call me Bob. I'm 62 years old, and I'm a custodian at Riverside University. I mop floors. I empty trash cans. I scrub toilets and wipe down desks and make sure the next generation of doctors and lawyers and engineers walk into clean classrooms every morning. It's honest work, good work, the kind of work my father did, and his father before him. My wife, Caroline, she understood that. She never once looked at me like I was less than anyone else. When she got sick 10 years ago, when the cancer took her piece by piece, she held my hand in that hospital bed and said, "Bobby, you've got the strongest hands I've ever known. Not because they're rough from work, but because they've built our daughter's whole world." Sarah, my little girl, 28 now, though I still see her as that 7-year-old who used to wait for me in the university parking lot after my shift, doing her homework in my old pickup truck because daycare was too expensive. She'd ask me about my day, and I'd tell her stories about the students, about the professors, about the discoveries happening in these buildings while we ate our packed sandwiches together. "Daddy," she said once, maybe when she was 9, "why do some kids at school say cleaning isn't a real job?" I remember kneeling down to her level, my knees already starting to ache even back then. "Sarah, let me tell you something. Every job that helps people is a real job. I keep these buildings clean so smart people can focus on curing diseases and teaching students and making the world better. That's real. That matters." She hugged me so tight that day. I never told her that after Caroline died, I sold our house. The hospital bills had eaten through our savings, and Sarah was about to start college. She'd gotten into a good school, a private, liberal arts college, 3 states away. The tuition alone was $45,000 a year. I looked at those numbers and I looked at my paycheck and I did the math that didn't math. So I sold the house where Sarah grew up, where Caroline and I had painted the nursery yellow before she was born, where we'd marked Sarah's height on the doorframe every birthday. I took that money and I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. I told Sarah the house was too big for just me, too many memories. She cried and said she'd go to community college instead. "You'll do no such thing," I told her. "You earned that scholarship they offered, and you're going to take it. I've got everything covered." The scholarship covered half. I covered the rest. And when it wasn't enough, I picked up extra shifts. I cleaned office buildings on weekends. I detailed cars. I did whatever it took. Sarah thrived. She studied education, said she wanted to teach elementary school because someone had to care about kids the way I'd cared about her. She graduated with honors 4 years ago. Now she teaches 3rd grade at an inner-city school, making a difference in lives like hers used to be. I was so proud I could burst. 2 years ago, she met Marcus Chen at a teachers' conference. He was there giving a presentation on financial literacy programs for schools. Investment banker. Smart guy. Well-dressed. Polite enough when I met him. He called me sir and shook my hand firmly and asked about my work with what seemed like genuine interest. "Mr. Walsh, Sarah tells me you've been at Riverside for over 30 years. That's impressive dedication." I liked that he noticed. Liked that he didn't flinch when Sarah told him what I did for a living. They dated for a year before he proposed. Sarah called me crying, happy tears this time, and asked if I'd come help her celebrate. Of course I said yes. I took the day off work, put on my one good suit that I'd worn to Caroline's funeral, and drove 3 hours to the city where they lived. The restaurant Marcus chose was nice. Not fancy, but nice. Italian place with checkered tablecloths and candles on the tables. He ordered wine, asked for my blessing like a gentleman should. I gave it. Sarah was happy. That's all I ever wanted. "There's one thing," Marcus said, stirring his coffee after dinner. "I'm actually working on expanding my investment portfolio. I've got a real estate opportunity that's going to triple in value, but I'm a bit short on liquid capital right now. Sarah mentioned you might be able to help bridge the gap. Just temporary, of course. 80,000. I'd pay you back within 18 months with interest. I looked at Sarah. She looked nervous, hopeful. It's a sure thing, Daddy, she said. Marcus has never steered me wrong on financial stuff. And with the interest, it would really help you out too. What she didn't know was that 80,000 was most of what I had left from the house sale. After paying her tuition, after the hospital bills, after everything. It was supposed to be my retirement, my safety net for when my knees finally gave out and I couldn't push that mop bucket anymore. But I looked at my daughter's face, at how much she loved this man, at how she believed in him. All right, I said. I'll have my lawyer draw up the paperwork. Marcus's eyebrows went up slightly. I caught it. The surprise that a janitor had a lawyer, but he recovered quickly, smiled, thanked me profusely. What neither of them knew was that I'd been putting money into a trust for Sarah since she was born. Every paycheck, 20% went into that account. Caroline and I had agreed on it. When Caroline died, I'd kept it going. That trust now had over $200,000 in it. I was going to give it to Sarah on her wedding day. The papers were signed. Marcus got his money. He sent me monthly updates on the investment, professional emails with charts and projections. The money was working hard, he said. Returns were strong. Sarah was happy. That's what mattered. 6 months later, Marcus proposed properly, with a ring the size of a small glacier. They set a date. Sarah wanted a small wedding, something intimate, but Marcus's family had other ideas. That's when I met Victoria Chen, Marcus's older sister, 36, corporate executive at some tech company. She flew in from San Francisco for the engagement party that Marcus's parents were throwing. Upscale restaurant, the kind with a dress code and a wine list thicker than most novels. I almost didn't go. Sarah had to beg me. Please, Daddy. I know it's not your scene, but it would mean everything to me. Marcus's whole family will be there. I want them to know you. So I went. I put on my suit again. The same one from the proposal. The same one from Caroline's funeral. It was getting a bit tight around the middle, a bit shiny at the elbows, but it was clean and pressed. I shined my shoes until I could see my reflection. The restaurant was called Meridian. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Waiters in bow ties. Little portions on big plates. I felt out of place the moment I walked in, but I held my head high. I was Sarah's father. I belonged here as much as anyone. Sarah met me at the door, beautiful in a navy dress, her mother's pearl necklace around her neck, the one I'd given her when she graduated college. You look so handsome, she said, straightening my tie. You look like your mother, I said, and I meant it. Same warm eyes, same kind smile. She led me to a private dining room where about 20 people were already mingling. Marcus's parents, Henry and Susan Chen, his aunts and uncles, his colleagues from work, and Victoria. I noticed her immediately because she noticed me. Her eyes swept over me from head to toe, and something cold flickered across her face. She whispered something to the woman next to her. They both looked at me and smiled those smiles that aren't really smiles. Marcus introduced me around. His parents were polite, if a bit formal. His father asked about my work, and I told him simply, honestly, I'm a custodian at Riverside University. Been there 35 years. How? Practical, his mother said, the pause before practical saying everything. Dinner was announced. We sat at a long table, Sarah and Marcus at the head, me somewhere in the middle next to an aunt who talked about her vacation home in Cabo the entire first course. Across from me was Victoria. She'd been drinking since I arrived. I counted 3 glasses of wine before we even sat down. Her face was flushed, her words getting louder. So, Robert, she said, my name sharp in her mouth. Marcus tells me you loaned him money for his investment. I helped him out, yes. How generous of you. She took another sip of wine. Must have been your life savings. What does a custodian make these days? 30,000 a year? 40? Sarah's face went pale. Victoria, I'm just curious, Victoria continued, cutting her off. I mean, it's quite something, isn't it? My brother, who manages portfolios worth millions, taking money from someone who pushes a mop for a living. The table went quiet. Marcus was looking at his plate. His mother's hand went to her pearl necklace. His father cleared his throat. I set down my fork carefully. It's honest work, I said quietly. Oh, I'm sure it is, Victoria said, her voice dripping with something ugly. Honest. Simple. For simple people. She leaned forward. But let's be real here. You don't belong at this table. This is a family of professionals. Of people who've actually accomplished something. And you're... What? The help? Sarah stood up so fast her chair nearly fell over. Stop it. Right now. But Victoria was on a roll now. The wine loosening whatever filter she'd had. I'm sorry. But someone has to say it. This whole thing is embarrassing. My brother is marrying into a family where the father, and I use that term loosely because, let's face it, any man can father a child, where the father cleans toilets for a living. Toilets. And now he's sitting here like he's one of us, like he has any right to be at our family table. She turned to Sarah. Honey, I get it. We don't choose our parents. But maybe for the actual wedding, we could seat him somewhere less visible? Maybe with the catering staff? I'm sure he'd be more comfortable with his own kind. The room was silent. 20 people, frozen, some with forks halfway to their mouths. Marcus still hadn't looked up from his plate. Sarah was shaking, tears streaming down her face, but she wasn't speaking. She was looking at Marcus, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to defend her. He didn't. I stood up. Slowly. My knees ached, but I stood straight. Excuse me, I said quietly. Oh, are you leaving? Victoria said. Good. Honestly, this whole charade was getting uncomfortable anyway. I looked at Sarah. Her eyes were pleading with me. Stay, they said. Don't go. But her mouth stayed closed. She didn't tell Victoria to stop. She didn't tell Marcus to say something. She just stood there, crying silently, trapped between her old life and her new one. I looked at Marcus. He finally met my eyes. In them, I saw shame, yes, but also something else. Relief. Relief that someone had finally said what he'd been thinking all along. Enjoy your dinner, I said. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high. I didn't rush. I didn't slam doors. I just walked out into the cool evening air and stood there for a moment, breathing, feeling the weight of every one of my 62 years settle into my bones. My phone was ringing before I even reached my truck. Sarah. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Again. 6 times she called. 6 times I didn't answer. When I got back to my apartment above the laundromat, I sat in my armchair, the one Caroline and I had bought at a yard sale 30 years ago, and I thought about my wife, about what she'd say if she'd been there tonight. She would have walked out with me, but she also would have done something else. Caroline was kind, but she wasn't a pushover. She believed in consequences. She believed that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them learn what happens when they forget basic human decency. I picked up my phone. I had 7 voicemails from Sarah, 3 from Marcus. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I called my lawyer. His name was David Brenner. He'd been Caroline's lawyer first, helped us with the will, with the house sale, with the loan paperwork for Marcus. Good man. Honest. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Bob, it's 11 o'clock. Everything all right? David, I need you to execute the recall clause on the Marcus Chen loan. Silence. Then, the one where, if he's in breach of contract terms, you can demand immediate repayment? That's the one. Bob, that clause was in there as a safeguard. Has something happened? He's in breach, I said. Section 4, subsection B. The loan was made in good faith to a family member's fiancé, with the understanding that said fiancé would treat my daughter and her family with respect and dignity. I consider that contract violated. More silence. Bob, are you sure? That's $80,000. If he can't pay immediately, I'm sure this will have financial consequences for him. Significant ones. I know. All right, David said. I'll draw up the paperwork. He'll receive notice tomorrow that the full amount is due within 30 days. With the accrued interest, it'll be about 92,000. Thank you, David. I hung up. My phone immediately rang again. Sarah. This time, I answered. Daddy, please, I'm so sorry. I should have said something. I should have defended you. I was just so shocked and... It's all right, sweetheart. It's not all right. What Victoria said was horrible. I told Marcus we're leaving his family if they don't apologize. He's talking to them now. That's between you and Marcus. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. I looked around my small apartment, at the pictures of Sarah on the wall, at Caroline's favorite blanket still draped over the couch, at the stack of bills on the table that I paid every month without complaint. I'm fine, honey. I've been called worse by better people. You get some sleep. I love you. Daddy, I love you too. I hung up before she could hear the crack in my voice. The next morning, I went to work like always. Clocked in at 5 a.m., pushed my mop bucket down the same hallways I'd walked for 35 years. A graduate student working late nodded at me as I passed. A professor leaving early said good morning. I was invisible to most of them, but I'd learned a long time ago that invisibility had its advantages. You see things. You hear things. You learn that the person cleaning your office is still a person. And maybe you should have realized that sooner. Marcus received David's letter at 10 a.m. I know because Sarah called me at 10:15, crying so hard I could barely understand her. Daddy, what did you do? Marcus just got a letter saying you want the 80,000 back. All of it. By next month. He doesn't have it. It's all tied up in the real estate investment. He'd have to liquidate everything, and he'd lose money, and then he should have thought about that before he let his sister treat me like garbage at a table I was invited to. But Daddy, this will ruin him financially. This will ruin us. No, Sarah. This will teach him a lesson about respecting the people who've helped him, about standing up for the woman he claims to love when his family disrespects her father. Please don't do this. Please, I'm begging you. And that's when I heard it. In the background, Marcus's voice, angry, saying something about your blue-collar father, and I knew this would be a problem. Sarah, I said softly, I want you to listen very carefully. The man you're about to marry just called me a problem. Not his sister, who insulted me. Not himself, for staying silent. Me, for having the audacity to expect basic respect. She was quiet. You need to think real hard about whether you want to spend your life with someone who thinks your father is a problem because he's a custodian. Because I promise you, Sarah, if he's ashamed of where you came from now, he'll always be ashamed. I hung up. The next 2 weeks were hell. Sarah called every day. I let most of it go to voicemail. The ones I did answer were painful. She was torn. I could hear it. She loved Marcus, but she was starting to see what I'd seen from the beginning. The way he introduced her to his colleagues, always mentioning that she was a teacher, but never that she taught at an inner-city school. The way he steered conversations away from her childhood, from me. The way he'd never once invited me to his apartment, always meeting at restaurants or Sarah's place. Marcus tried calling too. Those calls I definitely didn't answer. Victoria sent an email. David forwarded it to me. It was a masterpiece of non-apology. I'm sorry if you were offended and I may have had too much to drink, and surely we can resolve this like adults. Nothing about what she'd actually said. Nothing about being wrong. I didn't respond. Week 3. Something interesting happened. Marcus's father called me. Mr. Walsh, this is Henry Chen. I believe we need to talk. I'm listening. My son is in a difficult position. He made an investment based on having capital available. If you recall that capital now, he'll be forced to liquidate at a loss. It could set his career back years. Should have thought about that before he let his sister insult me. Victoria was inappropriate. She's apologized. No, Mr. Chen, she hasn't. She sent a lawyer-written email that said a whole lot of nothing. But more importantly, your son sat there silent. He didn't defend my daughter. He didn't defend me. He just sat there like a coward. Now see here. No, you see here. I worked 2 jobs to put my daughter through college. I sold the house where I raised her, to give her opportunities. I loaned your son money I couldn't afford to lose because my daughter loved him and believed in him. And in return, I got humiliated at a dinner table while he looked at his plate. We're willing to compensate you for your trouble. An additional 10,000, perhaps, if you extend the loan term. I laughed. Actually laughed. You think this is about money? You think I'm shaking you down? Then what is it about? It's about the fact that your family thinks people like me are less than people like you. It's about the fact that my daughter is about to marry into a family that will spend the rest of her life making her feel small for where she came from. And I won't stand by and watch that happen. So you'd ruin your daughter's happiness out of pride? No, Mr. Chen. I'm trying to save it. I hung up. Week 4. The deadline was 3 days away. I was finishing my shift, mopping the administrative building's lobby, when I heard footsteps behind me. Marcus. He looked terrible. Hadn't shaved. Eyes bloodshot. Expensive suit wrinkled. Mr. Walsh. Please. Can we talk? I kept mopping. You know where I work now? That's something. I deserve that. He ran his hand through his hair. I deserve all of this. You're right. I should have said something at dinner. I should have shut Victoria down the second she started. I should have defended Sarah. I should have defended you. Yes, you should have. I was scared. That's not an excuse. It's just the truth. My family has these expectations, and I've spent my whole life trying to meet them. And when Victoria started in, I just froze. Like I was a kid again, afraid of making waves. I stopped mopping. Looked at him directly. You're 34 years old, Marcus. You manage millions of dollars. You make decisions that affect people's livelihoods. But you can't tell your sister to show basic respect to the father of the woman you claim to love? I know. I know how it sounds. He took a deep breath. I don't have the 92,000. I can get maybe 60 if I liquidate everything, but I'll lose my shirt on the real estate deal, my career at the firm. This will tank it. They don't like associates who can't manage their personal finances. Maybe you should have considered that before taking money from a janitor you clearly look down on. I don't look down on you, he said quickly. Then, quieter. I didn't think I did, but you're right. Somewhere deep down, I did. I thought Sarah was marrying up. I thought I was doing her a favor, and that's disgusting. That's not love, that's arrogance. I leaned on my mop handle. My knees were killing me. You know what Sarah told me when she was 9 years old? I said. She asked me why kids at school said cleaning wasn't a real job. You know what I told her? Marcus shook his head. I told her that every job that helps people is real. That I keep these buildings clean so smart people can focus on curing diseases and teaching students and making the world better. I gestured around the lobby. I've cleaned these floors for 35 years, Marcus. 35 years. I've mopped up after 6 students. I've scrubbed graffiti off bathroom walls. I've emptied thousands of trash cans. And you know what? I'm proud of it. Because these halls are clean. Because professors can teach and students can learn and nobody has to worry about whether the trash is overflowing. I know, he said. I know it's important work. No, you don't. You think you do because you're supposed to, because it's politically correct to say. But you don't really believe it. If you did, you wouldn't have been embarrassed when Victoria called me out. Marcus's face crumpled. You're right. I was embarrassed. I've spent my whole life trying to prove I'm not some stereotype, that I'm more than my parents' expectations, that I'm sophisticated and successful and above it all. And then Victoria said those things, and I thought if I defended you, if I made a scene, everyone would think less of me. And now I realize that everyone should think less of me, including Sarah, including you. We stood there in the quiet lobby. Outside, students were walking to class. Inside, the floor was clean and shining. The loan is still due, I said. I know. I won't extend it. I understand. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, Sarah told me about the trust, about how you've been putting money away for her since she was born. She found the paperwork when she was looking for something else. She called me crying, told me she didn't know. Told me you'd sacrificed everything. My chest tightened. She knows you sold the house for her tuition. She knows about the apartment. She knows everything. He wiped his eyes. She thinks I don't deserve her. She's right. What did you tell her? I told her she deserves someone who will defend her and her family without hesitation. Someone who won't be ashamed of where she came from. Someone who understands that worth isn't measured in salary or job title. He smiled sadly. I told her she deserves someone like her father. He left. I stood there with my mop, feeling older than I ever had. That night, Sarah showed up at my apartment. She had her own key. I'd given it to her when I moved in, told her she'd always have a place with me. She let herself in. Found me in my armchair, watching the news with the sound off. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, sweetheart." She sat on the couch, Caroline's blanket wrapped around her shoulders. For a long time, we didn't say anything. "I broke up with Marcus," she finally said. My heart sank and soared at the same time. "Sarah, not because you asked the loan back, because he showed me who he really is, or who he was trying to be. Either way, it's not someone I can marry." She looked at me with those eyes so much like her mother's. "You sold the house for me. You deserve to go to college. I deserve to know the truth. I deserve to be able to make that choice with you. You would have said no. You would have gone to community college and given up your dreams, maybe, but we could have figured it out together." She pulled the blanket tighter. "Marcus told me what you said, about how you're proud of your work, about how you've cleaned those floors for 35 years. It's the truth, I know, and I realized something today. I've been teaching my third graders about dignity and respect and how every person matters, but I stood in that restaurant and I let Victoria say those things to you, and I didn't stop her. I didn't stop Marcus. I was too worried about fitting in with his family, about being sophisticated enough, about proving I wasn't just some poor kid from a single-parent home. You are sophisticated enough," I said. "You're more than enough. I'm a teacher who grew up in a pickup truck doing homework while my dad finished his shift. That's where I come from. And if someone can't respect that, can't respect you, then they don't get to be in my life." She started crying then. Real crying, the kind that shakes your whole body. I moved to the couch, sat beside her, pulled her into my arms like I did when she was little, and had a nightmare. "Mom would be so proud of you," she said into my shoulder. She already was. Every day. "I'm sorry I didn't defend you. You defended me today. That's what matters." We sat like that for a long time. Outside, the laundromat's neon sign buzzed and flickered. Inside, my daughter and I held on to each other. Two people who'd always had each other, who'd always be enough. The loan deadline came and went. Marcus didn't pay. David sent the paperwork to collections, but I called him the next day. "Drop it," I said. "Bob, are you sure? This is your money." "I'm sure." Consider it a life lesson for him. An expensive one, but some lessons are worth the cost. 3 months later, Sarah came to Sunday dinner at my apartment like she did every week. She brought someone with her, a man about her age, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, laughing at something she'd said. "Daddy, this is James. He's the guidance counselor at my school." James shook my hand firmly. His hands were calloused, working hands. "Mr. Walsh, Sarah's told me a lot about you. I hear you work at Riverside? 35 years and counting." My dad was a custodian too, elementary school. He always said it was the most important job in the building because if the school wasn't clean, nobody could focus on learning. I liked James immediately. Over dinner spaghetti, Sarah's favorite. The same recipe Caroline used to make. James asked about my work, my life, my stories. He laughed in the right places. He listened in the quiet ones. He looked at Sarah the way a man should look at a woman he loves, like she's the whole world. When they left, Sarah hugged me at the door. "You like him?" she whispered. "I like him." His family invited us to dinner next week. His mom and dad, his 2 sisters. Very casual, just burgers in their backyard. She pulled back to look at me. "I told them you'd be there. I told them you're the most important person in my life. And if they want to know me, they need to know you." "What did they say?" "His mom asked what your favorite dessert is so she could make it." I blinked back tears. "Peach cobbler, like your mother used to make." 6 months after that, James proposed. Simple ring, simple proposal, in the middle of Sarah's classroom after school. He asked for my blessing first, showed up at the university one evening, and found me in the break room. "Mr. Walsh, I love your daughter. I love her kindness and her strength and her big heart. I love that she puts her students first and that she never forgot where she came from. I love that she talks about you constantly and that every good thing she is, she learned from you." "She learned from her mother, too," I said. "I know. She tells me about her all the time." He took a breath. "I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise I'll never be ashamed of her, or you, or where you come from. I can promise I'll defend her and your family without hesitation. And I can promise that your job, your life, your sacrifices, they'll always be respected in our home. Then you have my blessing." The wedding was small. Sarah's school gymnasium, decorated with paper flowers her students made. About 50 people total. James's family, warm and welcoming. My colleagues from the university, proud to be there. Sarah's students, giggling in the front row. And me, walking my daughter down the aisle in a new suit she'd insisted on buying me, fighting back tears as I placed her hand in James's. At the reception, during the father-daughter dance, Sarah rested her head on my shoulder. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For teaching me what true worth looks like. For showing me that dignity isn't about job titles or bank accounts. For loving me enough to let me make mistakes and learn from them. You're my daughter. That's what fathers do. Not all of them." She pulled back to look at me. "I heard from Marcus last month." "Oh?" "He got a new job. Smaller firm, less prestigious. But he says he's happier. He's volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit, teaching low-income families about money management. He said he thinks about what you told him every day, about how every job that helps people is real." I didn't know what to say to that. "He also said he paid you back, the full amount, with interest. He didn't want you to forgive it. He wanted to earn back a little bit of your respect, even if he never earns back mine." "When did this happen?" "Last week. Check's probably waiting for you at home." The music played on. My daughter and I swayed to some country song about fathers and daughters, about time passing, about love remaining. When the song ended, James cut in with a smile, and I stepped back to watch them dance. Watch my daughter laugh and spin and live her life with someone who saw her worth, who understood where she came from and loved her for it, not despite it. I thought about Caroline, about how she'd love this moment, about how she always knew our daughter would be okay because she had what mattered, a good heart, a strong spirit, and the understanding that true worth comes from how you treat people, not what you do for a living. My phone buzzed. A text from the university. "Emergency spill in the library. Could I come in early tomorrow to handle it?" I texted back, "I'll be there," because that's what I do. I clean up messes. I make spaces better. I do work that matters, that helps people, that allows the world to function a little more smoothly, and I'm proud of it. The man Victoria Chen called just a janitor had taught his daughter about dignity, had taught an investment banker about respect, had taught himself that 35 years of honest work, of sacrifice, of loving your child above all else, that was worth more than any job title or bank account could ever be. I looked around that gymnasium, at all those people celebrating love and new beginnings, and I smiled, because I am the lesson about true worth, the one they all learned, the one I've been teaching for 62 years, one clean floor at a time. And now it's your turn to learn it too.